Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking a look at an absolute masterclass in project management, civil engineering, and high-stakes political strategy. Honestly, if we're evaluating the greatest infrastructure initiatives in human history from a consultant's perspective, we've got to travel back nearly 900 years to the early 12th century. The project, Angkor Wat. It's an incredible story of pure ambition, unbelievable engineering, and deeply held spiritual beliefs. And the craziest part? It was executed flawlessly without a single piece of modern machinery, or, a single Zoom meeting. Okay, let's dive into this. To truly understand how this mega project came to life, we'll walk through our strategic briefing. We're covering the executive summary, master planning the cosmos, geotechnical foundations, supply chain logistics, execution and craftsmanship, and finally, the project postmortem. Section 1, the executive summary. Let's meet our primary stakeholder. Right, so every massive undertaking starts with a visionary client. In this case, we have King Suryavarman II, who ruled the massive Khmer Empire in the 12th century. But he had a huge political problem on his hands. How exactly do you legitimize what is effectively a hostile takeover? See, he wasn't next in line for the throne. He took it by force from his own great uncle in this dramatic, violent battle. And when you acquire leadership through force, you have an immediate, desperate need to establish unquestionable authority and really anchor your power on earth. His solution was the ultimate state temple strategy. Suryavarman decided to build a monument so overwhelmingly grand that it would permanently legitimize his rule and secure his VIP spot among the gods in the afterlife. But practically speaking, this temple was also an incredible projection of wealth and, more importantly, control. You see, Angkor Wat was positioned right at the heart of the world's most advanced water management network. By building this temple, he was securing control of the water and the annual rice harvest. That was the ultimate ROI. Controlling the rice meant controlling the entire empire. The absolute genius here is hiding total agricultural and economic control behind a breathtaking religious monument. Moving on to Section 2, Master Planning the Cosmos. With his political motives locked in, Suryavarman executed a massive strategic pivot. Instead of dedicating the temple to Shiva like the kings before him, he chose Vishnu, the protector. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer ambition of the architectural design. The engineers didn't just design a really large building, they master planned a perfect physical 3D model of the Hindu universe. It's mind-blowing. The central 5 towers, those represent the peaks of Mount Meru, the sacred home of the gods. The massive outer walls were built to represent the mountains enclosing the world, and that giant moat surrounding the whole complex, that's the cosmic ocean. It's literally a miniature universe built entirely out of stone. But the cosmic modeling didn't stop there. When we compare traditional Khmer temples with Angkor Wat, a really stark deviation in the master plan emerges. Traditional temples faced east, toward the rising sun. Angkor Wat, however, faces west. In Hindu tradition, west is the direction of the setting sun, of death, and of Vishnu. This was a highly deliberate choice because the temple was designed right from the start to serve as the king's funerary temple. It was meant to be his eternal resting place, where his spirit would unite with Vishnu. Section 3, Geotechnical Engineering and Foundations. This is where they had to tame the swamp. So moving into the operational phases, the engineers hit a massive environmental roadblock. The ground in Siem Reap is notoriously sandy, and it shifts drastically between the wet monsoon season and the dry season. If you just go and stack millions of tons of stone on shifting sand, your mega project is going to collapse, guaranteed. To solve this, they engineered a 200-meter-wide moat. Now, it's super easy to look at a moat and assume, oh, it's just a defensive ditch. But from an engineering standpoint, this was an ingenious geotechnical pressure valve. It was specifically designed to keep the groundwater levels perfectly constant year-round, totally absorbing the shock of monsoons or droughts. What's really fascinating here is the sheer patience this required. The first 7 years of this project were entirely dedicated to just taming this swamp. Step 1, which took years 1 through 3, was just digging that massive moat to stabilize the groundwater. Step 2, spanning years 3 through 7, involved laying the invisible core of the temple. The workers pack the foundation with laterite, which is this iron-rich clay-like soil that hardens into a rock-solid block when it's exposed to the air. It is truly awestruck engineering. Before a single decorative stone was even laid, they spent 7 years building a sturdy, hidden foundation, just to ensure the immense weight of the temple wouldn't sink or crack. All right, Section 4,
Supply chain logistics. How do you move millions of tons of rock?
With the foundation finally secure, the Khmer faced staggering resource constraints. We're talking a 30-year build, utilizing an estimated 300,000 laborers and 6,000 elephants to transport a mind-boggling 5 million tons of sandstone. Every visible inch of Angkor Wat is stone. But here's the problem. The quarry at Mount Kulen was located 40 kilometers away, straight through dense, unforgiving jungle. Trying to brute force 5 million tons of rock by land over that terrain would have been a logistical nightmare, completely unfeasible.
Let's move to and see how this builds into an incredibly efficient supply chain strategy. Instead of fighting the harsh environment, they used it to their advantage. Workers waited for the seasonal monsoon rains to fill up a vast network of canals. Then they'd load those massive sandstone blocks onto bamboo rafts and just let the water do the heavy lifting. They floated them down the canals directly to the construction site. Work smarter, not harder, right?
Section 5. Execution and craftsmanship.
Once all those materials were actually on site, we enter the final execution phase. And keep in mind, they didn't have mortar to just glue these massive structures together. They had to rely entirely on mortarless friction fitting. The Khmer masons cut and ground the sandstone blocks with such astonishing precision that even today, standing right there at the temple, you can barely fit a razor blade between many of the joints. They were effectively creating a waterproof, unshakable jigsaw puzzle out of 5 million tons of rock. But the structural engineering was really only half the battle. Once the rough sandstone blocks were stacked into their final shapes, thousands of master artists took over for the finishing phases. Think about this project scope, carving nearly a mile of intricate bas reliefs right into the stone walls, detailing epic Hindu battle scenes, meticulously recording the history of Suryavarman's army, and sculpting over 3,000 uniquely detailed apsaras, or heavenly divas. The sheer scale and perfection of this artistic execution is just breathtaking. Finally, Section 6, the project postmortem. Like a lot of massive, leader-driven initiatives throughout history, the timeline here was violently disrupted. Around 1150 AD, King Suryavarman II died suddenly, most likely during a military campaign. So the crucial point is that with the primary stakeholders suddenly gone, the momentum of the entire project stopped cold. There was this frantic rush to finish his resting place, and as a result, many of the carvings at Angkor Wat were simply abandoned. If you walk through the complex today, you can still spot blank, uncarved stone panels left exactly as they were the very day the project lost its visionary. And that leaves us with a fascinating final question to ponder. What is the true legacy of a leader whose unfinished political strategy became history's greatest engineering marvel? Suryavarman II built Angkor Wat to legitimize a stolen throne and to control the rice economy. But in doing so, he pushed human engineering, logistics, and art to limits the world had never seen before. The political empire is long gone, but the stone cosmos remains. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this breakdown gives you a whole new appreciation for exactly what human ambition is capable of building.